Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with something that may unsettle you. Most people are not rejected because God has said that now. They are rejected because they are not yet ready for the yes. We love to tell ourselves that timing is everything, that somehow love will simply arrive at our doorstep when the stars align. But the uncomfortable truth is this: divine timing is not an excuse for human passivity. It is not about waiting helplessly. It is about becoming someone capable of stewarding what you are praying for. And so I ask you, why do so many of us struggle in relationships? Is it fate, some cruel twist of destiny, or is it more often than not the reflection of our own unhealed wounds, our unresolved fears, our refusal to grow into the kind of people who can carry the weight of covenant love? That is a terrifying question because it places responsibility back where we least want it, on ourselves. Picture it, the young woman who wonders if she will ever be seen scrolling through pictures of happy couples, comparing her life to theirs, feeling as though is invisible to both man and God. Or the young man, weary and desperate, who lowers his standards again and again because he believes loneliness is more unbearable than compromise. Both are asking the same haunting question: has God forgotten me? Will I ever find love? And in that quiet desperation, they miss the truth that God's silence does not mean denial. Sometimes his silence is his strategy to prepare you. You see, waiting is not passive. Waiting is training. Waiting is becoming. It is the gymnasium of the soul where God refines your patience, your character, your discernment. Because if he were to give you the very thing you cried for before you were ready, it would crush you instead of bless you. And so the challenge tonight is simple yet piercing. Stop blaming heaven for what earth is not yet ready to receive. So here it is, the revelation that must strike you like thunder. God has already said yes. The problem is not his willingness, it is our readiness. The real question is not, will God confirm it? The real question is, will you be prepared when he does? That, my friends, is the undeniable truth that will decide the course of your relationships and the quality of your future. You know, one of the most dangerous lies we tell ourselves is this: that love will come when it comes, that it is merely a matter of luck or divine fate. But that is a shallow and irresponsible way of looking at one of the most consequential aspects of your life. Relationships are not cosmic accidents. They are reflections of who you are, of your choices, of your maturity, and of the responsibility you are willing to bear. And so the first thing we must confront is this: if your relationships continually fail, it is not because God has cursed you. It is because you are not yet the kind of person who can sustain what you desire. And so the question must be asked: why do so many people struggle in love? Is it simply fate written in the stars? Or is it more brutally honest than that? Is it because they haven't faced themselves, because they have neglected the hard work of becoming whole, competent, and stable enough to carry the weight of another person's trust? That is the question that pierces to the heart. Because if it is fate, and then you can do nothing, but if it is responsibility, then suddenly the burden falls on you, and that is far more frightening. I once spoke with a woman who told me she had been waiting for God to send her a husband for years. She prayed, she fasted, she begged heaven for a miracle, and yet all the while she remained bitter, unhealed, and consumed with resentment. She despised the men who overlooked her, but she never asked herself if there was something within her own life that was driving them away. What she called waiting on God was, in reality, passivity masquerading as faith. She wasn't preparing herself to be a partner. She was hiding behind the illusion that God would compensate for her refusal to grow. And what did that produce? Years of frustration, jealousy, and despair. Here's the hard truth: desperation destroys attraction. If you walk into a relationship hungry to be completed by someone else, you will smother that very relationship to death. Attraction is not born of need, it is born of strength. It emerges when you possess competence, when you have built self-respect, when you radiate stability instead of insecurity. People are not drawn to your voids, they are drawn to your wholeness. And if you keep operating out of desperation, you won't just repel others, you'll sabotage yourself. We need a radical shift in mindset. Marriage is not some trophy that falls into your lap as a reward for being lonely long enough. It is not a prize God hands out to the most desperate applicant. It is a covenant, a sacred responsibility, something that requires you to be prepared mentally, spiritually, emotionally, to stand at an altar and vow to carry another person's life alongside your own is no small thing. And so you cannot treat preparation lightly. You cannot remain fractured, insecure, and bitter and expect to step into something as weighty as marriage without consequence. So here is the challenge. Stop waiting passively. Stop chasing endlessly. Stop begging the world for validation. Instead, set your heart and mind on becoming the kind of person whose presence is a blessing, not a burden. Become someone who adds stability, not chaos. Someone who attracts by their strength, not by their desperation. Because the truth is this, and it is inescapable: you do not get the relationship you want, you get the relationship you are prepared for. And until you take that seriously, every prayer for love will echo back to you unanswered. That is not because God has said no. It is because He is waiting for you to grow into His yes. Here is something we have to wrestle with right away. People of value do not chase, they attract. And if you find yourself constantly running after someone, begging for attention, lowering your standards just to be noticed, you have already betrayed the truth that you don't believe in your own worth. Relationships are not built on the scraps of desperation. They are built on the substance of character. And until you understand that, you will continue repeating the same cycle of heartbreak and confusion. So let me ask you, why do so many people fall into relationships that are beneath them, that corrode their spirit rather than elevate it? Is it because the world is unfair, because God has somehow withheld His blessing, or is it because they have confused longing with greediness, because they have mistaken the H of loneliness for the signal of love? That is the painful reality. Most of us do not suffer from a lack of options. We suffer from a lack of self-worth, and that poisons every choice we make. I once knew a man who spent years chasing women who never respected him. He dressed well. He said the right things. He made sure to be noticed. But beneath the surface, he was riddled with insecurity. Every rejection cut deeper than the last until resentment consumed him. He thought the problem was out there, that women were blind, that God was silent, that life was unfair. But in reality, He was signaling to everyone around him that he was unprepared, unstable, and unable to bear the weight of true partnership. He wasn't being ignored because he was invisible. He was being ignored because he lacked substance. He was chasing when he should have been building. And this is the truth. We cannot escape it. Desperation does not attract, it repulses. You cannot cling to someone and expect them to respect you. You cannot beg for validation and expect to inspire admiration. Real attraction is not rooted in manipulation, in tactics, in games. It is rooted in competence. It is rooted in the quiet, steady confidence of a person who knows their value and carries it with dignity. It is rooted in self-respect, in the discipline of a life that says, I don't need you to complete me, but I am strong enough to walk beside you. That is the shift we must make. Marriage is not some cosmic lottery where God randomly selects who gets blessed. It is not a prize handed to you for enduring loneliness the longest. It is a covenant, a responsibility, something weighty enough to demand sacrifice and preparation. And so, if you have not yet cultivated the strength to carry your own life, how will you ever carry the life of another? To desire marriage without preparation is to desire the crown without carrying the cross. So I challenge you, stop chasing shadows. Stop waiting for someone else to fix what is broken in you. Instead, become the kind of person whose life itself is an invitation. Build competence. Cultivate discipline. Live in such a way that your very presence communicates stability and strength, because you don't need to scream for love when your life whispers it already. And here is the truth that must strike you like a lightning bolt. You do not attract what you want, you attract who you are. Until you face that reality, you will keep sabotaging your future. But once you accept it, everything changes. That is the moment you stop begging for love and start becoming worthy of it. That is when God's eyes becomes undeniable. Let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. Waiting on God is not the same thing as doing nothing. Too many people disguise laziness, fear, and an avoidance under the banner of, I'm just waiting for God's timing. That's not faith, that's denial. God's timing isn't meant to paralyze you, it's meant to prepare you. And if you mistake passivity for patience, you'll waste years of your life watching opportunities slip through your fingers while convincing yourself it's holy obedience. So let me ask you, why do so many people fail in love? Is it really that God is withholding from them? Or is it that they have refused to mature into the kind of person who can sustain what they are asking for? Because it's not enough to pray for a good relationship. You have to become someone who can carry one. That's the brutal truth. And it hurts because it means the spotlight isn't on God's refusal, but on our unreadiness. I knew a young man once who kept declaring he was waiting on the Lord to send him a wife. But what did his waiting look like? He wasted his days in endless distraction, avoided responsibility, and cultivated no discipline. He expected that somehow, miraculously, a faithful, wise, discerning woman would enter his life and fix his chaos. But love does not rescue you from your irresponsibility. It exposes it. And when it did, when a woman finally gave him a chance, his lack of preparation destroyed the relationship before it even began. He blamed timing, but the real problem was that he thought waiting meant standing still instead of moving forward. The truth is that desperation and passivity are equally destructive. Desperation drives you to chase what you're not ready for, but while passivity convinces you to do nothing at all, real attraction, real love, real covenant, it is sustained by growth. It is built on competence, on character, on self-respect. It's when you have fought your battles, disciplined your habits, and ordered your inner world that you become strong enough to invite someone else into it. Without that preparation, even God's yes can become your downfall. And here is where the shift must occur. Marriage is not some prize handed to you because you prayed long enough. It is a covenant entrusted to those who are prepared to bear its weight. It is not about finding someone who will finally complete you. It is about becoming whole enough to walk beside another human being without collapsing under the responsibility. That requires sacrifice, accountability, transformation. To long for marriage without preparing for it is like demanding a harvest without ever planting seeds. So I challenge you, stop calling avoidance faith. Stop hiding behind the excuse of divine timing. Use this season of waiting to train, to grow, to sharpen yourself into someone capable of covenant love. Become the kind of person whose readiness honors God's eyes. Because the worst thing that can happen to you is not that God delays the blessing. It's that he grants it before you are ready and you destroy with your own unpreparedness. And so here's the undeniable truth. You must carry with you God is never late. His yes is certain. The question is not whether he will do it. The question is whether you will be prepared enough to keep it when it comes. That is the difference between those who thrive in love and those who watch it slip away. Here's the reality you must confront. Love is not some magical force that descends upon you when you've suffered long enough. Love is not a rescue mission. It is a responsibility. And if you enter into thinking it will save you from yourself, you will destroy it and you will destroy the person who trusted you with their life. That is the raw, uncomfortable truth that most people don't want to hear. So let me ask you, why do so many people struggle in relationships? Is it because God is cruel, or because fate has played a wicked game? Or is it because they have built their lives on shaky foundations and then expected another person to stabilize what they themselves refused to strengthen? That's the terrifying answer most people avoid. It is not fate. It is not God's silence. It is their own unreadiness staring back at them. I think of a young woman who spent years waiting for the right man. She prayed, she fasted, she looked for signs, but she never dealt with her bitterness, her fear of abandonment, her lack of self-worth. When men did come into her life, she either clung to them desperately or drove them away with suspicion. Every relationship ended in chaos, and she concluded that God was withholding his blessing. But that wasn't true. The blessing could not thrive in soil poisoned by unresolved wounds. She was waiting for someone else to do the healing that was her responsibility to undertake. And this is the truth you must grasp. Desperation is corrosive. It doesn't only repel others, it eats away at your own integrity. When you beg for love, when you cling to someone out of fear of being alone, you're not offering yourself as a partner. You're offering yourself as a burden. And nobody, no matter how kind or well-meaning, can carry that weight forever. Real attraction is born out of competence. When you've disciplined yourself, ordered your inner chaos, and established self-respect, Attraction is not a performance, it's the natural byproduct of becoming whole. The shift you must make is profound. Marriage is not some divine trophy for enduring loneliness. It is not handed to you because you've waited the longest. It is a covenant that demands sacrifice, maturity, and resilience. It is the heaviest responsibility you will ever carry outside of your faith. And so you cannot treat preparation as optional. To step into marriage unprepared is to invite disaster, because love will reveal every flaw you have refused to face. So here's the challenge. Stop hiding behind fate. Stop outsourcing your transformation to God while doing nothing yourself. Use this season, this waiting, this silence to forge strength, to heal, to grow into the kind of person who can stand shoulder to shoulder with another human being and not collapse under the weight of it. Because that's what love demands, not passivity, not desperation, but responsibility. And here's the undeniable mic drop truth you must leave with, and God has already said yes. The question is not whether he will deliver, it is whether you will be the kind of person who can keep what he gives. And until you take that seriously, every high yes will look like a no, not because God withheld it, but because you were unprepared to receive it.